Well,
We're live. Everybody get your phone out. And Bunny Rabbit.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
How did he do it? He remotely did it?
Dude, we stepped it up a notch.
You got
it is top of the line.
Larry can come back and. We got them.
Josh,
Brad Pitt in the house.
Thank you for the hot water, the coffee.
We got
I appreciate it.
Ice and cups in the fridge. I don't know why he gets hot water.
Ooh, look at us, weatherman. That's top of the line right there, boys and girls. Look at us.
I can't see you. Where you at?
I'm camouflaged. I'm behind that bush. Brittany Renee's on here. My weepay.
That's part of that.
Time for real estate
agreement, wasn't it?
Weatherman, give us the announcement. Who is our sponsor? Give us an update.
First of all, we want to thank everybody that come out to GTT's wedding. I take our responsibility. I was supposed to send out more invitation, and I was just wrapped up with a bachelor party. So if you did get invited, you were definitely thought about. The wedding was beautiful, so thank everybody for coming. But one girl in particular, she's like a little dance magnet out there. Carrie Ann Sear with CMG Mortgage. We want to thank you for all you do for our team. Also for supporting all these events that we go to. Carrie Ann is always at the events, and there's nothing like networking with one of your vendors. So Carrie Ann Sear with CMG. There's a reason you're number one in the world. Thank you so much.
In the damn world.
All you do.
In the world. Best in the business. Best in the business. Hey.
That dance we did, do you round, get you round. How was it?
I get around. Is that the Beach Boys?
That one that everybody was doing.
The wobble.
Oh.
Yeah, wobble. Yeah, she had that wobble down pat. Ginger Stegg is used to be an old hip hop dancer back today. I believe she was in Step Up, the movie.
And you got served. All right, let's get to it. Today's topic is comments. See, look how fancy we look. We look like broadcasters, news. You looking good. We look like Ron Burgundy.
You got this now. Look how good your shirt looks. I got this expensive shirt on, and I can't see it.
I'm not even wearing a shirt. But hey, I do you a favor. Like, comment, share the stream. I'm at Dwayne. You share the stream. What are you doing about dropping? Can nobody hear it? Ooh, sounds like a robot. JR.
You want me to cut your man off?
It's the damn. Let's see if we still sound like robots. Jason Connor, there's that man again. We're trying to fix it. Damn. Dominic, what's up, buddy?
Josh's ears are catching like these satellites. It's messing with our damn broadcast.
Echo chamber.
That's exactly what it is. I'm going to cut mine back on. I like the red button.
We're trying to get it started.
We need one of those things that come across. PBS technical.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ginger Stegg and all that dancing since we,
Hey, give us a little
Man, hey, that'll be our little intermission. She was kicking them feet up, man. She did.
Do you still hear the feedback?
She did the centipede.
Damn. You know me.
Centipede.
All right, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about people that want to build a custom home.
Oh, Lord.
And they look in magazines and they look on TV and they see houses out there, and then they get in their mind, I want to build my own. I want to build my own custom home, just like that. Pinterest, I forgot about that. Instagram, they follow such and such homes.
Big front porches.
But what they don't understand is all of the emotional roller coaster ride that takes place from whenever you start to when you finish. And today we're going to break this down to, hopefully we can give you some clarity on what it's actually like, because some of the most stressful things that we go through are custom home building.
Yes. And I don't care what anybody says, and everybody can say, oh, we had a great experience. That's a lie. It's about a 2% chance that you're going to have a happy, wonderful, all the way through it, no problems, because your emotions won't let you do that.
Yeah, if there's a mistake, you freak out.
Yeah.
If it's more than you thought, you freak out. If it takes longer than you thought, you freak out. So I got a question for you, Weatherman. What do you believe the client's expectations are when they start the process?
That it's their house. they own it, that they've already bought it, and they get to call the shots and they get to change anything that they want.
Well, if it's a custom home and they own the land and the construction loan is in their name, is it their house?
Well, it's their problem until it's built. It'll be their house when it's all said and done. Because just because you have the land and the loan, you don't have the licensing and everything else that goes along with it.
Like you said, a good way to say it is it's your problem. It's your concern until this puppy gets done. What is another, some rabbits, you've been involved in some custom home buildings. Annette Bratcher, David Estes, appreciate you guys getting on here.
I got the best one. Let's see what hers is, but it won't be as good as mine.
Rabbit.
She better not use it.
Rabbit, can you speak? Rabbit, my question for you, what do you believe clients' expectations are in the beginning?
Oh, I think in the beginning, it's, it's this picture they've got in their, they're looking at, and it's gonna happen, it's gonna, no problems in 4 months, 4 or 5 months, they're planning on moving in, and it just doesn't happen like that.
What is one thing, Weatherman, I'm gonna ask you one question. What is one great piece of advice that you could give, let's say if Spice and Dave wanted to build their custom dream home, what is a piece of advice you'd give them?
Draw you up a budget, wad it up, and throw it in a trash can. Because I don't see very many people that go by the budget, and budget is one of the biggest things that people get emotionally involved. They either go over, they don't think they're getting what they paid for, they want more than it's on the budget allows. So budget is usually the number one thing, and everybody on the front end is super excited until you go in that lighting store with about a $3,000 allowance and you want $28,000 in lights.
So imagine you're making these decisions, you're picking out your options, and you go into these stores, and some builders may let you finance all this in there. So let's say you got a $3,200 lighting allowance, like Steven says, but you see these lights, and the next thing you know, your lighting is now $3,500 over budget, but you're making sense of it. Well, we can finance this in over 30 years.
Yeah.
It's important we should get what we want.
Or we can pay for it, maybe not eat out once a month.
They will find a way to justify making these decisions, and it does not stop with one trade,
Right.
one vendor. It does not just stop at the lighting store. Then it's flooring,
Yep.
appliance, whatever else they come into contact with. Maybe it's paint. Who knows what it is, but you add all these things up, and the next thing you know, you're 10% over budget. And at the end, you're pissed off. You're mad.
Because it doesn't help the appraisal value. You got to come out of pocket. So remember this: when you're shopping and building a custom home, and you go into a showroom, those lights and those stuff on showroom floors, they're not cheap. That's why they're on the showroom.
J.R. Eastman, he thinks clients expect it to be basically the same process as buying a site-built homes. I think he's right. People can go through an Old South, a D.R. Horton, and they think it's going to be simple like that, but it's a lot more complicated. So I, Weatherman, have come up, Annette Bradshaw, I appreciate the like. Everybody like. Give me some love. Give me some likes and share the stream. I'm a married man. I'm married now.
Oh, you mean love.
I'm married with me. Get off of me. We've got if you look back behind us, do you see what's behind us, Weatherman?
Custom home building. Yeah.
And we're gonna break this little diagram down, the custom home building experience. So number one is the builder skill. Weatherman, what do you think of when you think of a good builder? What is a good skilled builder?
I think a good skilled builder is somebody that has been involved in building for most of their life, and somebody that actually knows a little bit about every trade but doesn't really do the trades. And so a good skilled builder is almost like a great manager. In my opinion, that's what a good skilled builder is. I've seen people that used to be frame carpenters that try to be builders, where they spend all their time on a frame and they're not worried about the electrician. So I think great skilled builders are great managers of their vendors.
I agree with that, Weatherman. I think another thing a great skilled builder would have is they can foresee problems, they can prevent problems, but then they can solve problems. Because when you build a home, there's always a problem. And one of the things, hey, I'll brag about Joey Richardson. Man, that guy can just come out there and solve problems just so easy. Here's what we need to do. I mean, you know, some of the things you don't think about is how's the light going to drain. He can just walk out there and say, here's what we need to do, and to do this, and to do that, and I'm just sitting there and I'm mesmerized by you, Joey. Number 2, here's where I think great builders that are really good at what they do can probably get in a little bit of in a little trouble. Builder communication. What do builders? How do they want to communicate
They
with
don't.
them?
But, you know, hey, to be honest, and this is my theory and my philosophy, we are paid professionals to do a job, and we are supposed to be the go-between between the buyer and the builder. So what happens is whenever the buyer starts talking to the builder and leaves the agents out, you usually have chaos. So it's very important that you use your agent wisely and let them be your voice, because a lot of time most builders have a type of personality that is not a sales personality. So you may not like the answer you get.
Yeah, they're there to solve the problem. They're there to give you the best home that you can get. Some want to give the best experience. Some want to create a masterpiece, and that's really all they care about. Yeah. They don't care about hurting your feelings. They don't care about returning your phone calls. Mm-hmm. In their mind, they're there to build your home and to build it to the best of their ability. So.
And to meet a closing date. You know, a lot of times, you know, you may have a closing date, and every time they try to stop and address a problem or an issue that you're having, that just slows that down. So.
Well, that's a good point, because I don't think it makes sense to the consumer that if I've got to stop and talk to you and we've got to halt the building process.
Talk to painter.
We don't realize that it could really cost us 2 or 3 weeks, because that painter.
It's because somebody's coming after the painter and somebody's coming after him. And if you stop this guy back here, then you got to stop this one and this one, and then you got to get them back out there.
And then where do they go if they're stopped?
They go to the next one.
Go to another job.
Yeah. Then you might be 2 or 3 back.
Yeah. Which can lead into a month. You're a month off now.
Which leads into another problem. We've been out there 3 times this week and ain't nobody working. Where's everybody?
But they're working on that other house.
Yeah. It's
Y'all,
almost
I
finished.
see them work. Y'all are there working on that house. Jimmy Turner, my wife and I are about to start a custom build with PJ McAyee in 4 Corners of Tennessee. Well, you know, I've heard really good things about the way PJ does custom home building. So let's give a plug, Jimmy, for PJ.
PJ was a banker, and he's a very organized guy, and he's kind of that keeps everything in a pattern and keeps all this rolling. So PJ definitely is a great manager of time and the vendors.
Now, some people feel like all they got to do is pick a builder.
Yeah.
But I'm going to show you number 3. What is the real estate agent's skill involved in a building process, Weatherman?
Actually, the real estate agent's involvement is just to be the middleman, the voice of it, not to give their opinion, not to tell you how the house should be built, not to tell you when it should be done. It actually is you represent them, and you take an issue to the builder, or try to handle the issue if it's something simple and not even bother the builder most of the time.
Oh, is that a lead, Weatherman?
I don't know, but we're on a show.
Hey, sorry there. Who was that, Mr. President? We're busy right now.
Right back.
But some agents, I've dealt with a lot of agents. I would say I probably have been involved in 200 or 300 new constructions in my career. And sometimes agents are really trying their very best to help protect you, but they cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've dealt with agents and they're really good. Sometimes I've dealt with agents like a Cortland Coleman, a guy like that builds houses. I mean, it's very important, I believe, to have an agent that's helping you that has some type of new construction experience. David Estes is a guy that understands new construction. He's a builder.
The thing, like, you're probably the best new construction agent I've ever seen. So we both definitely have. Even the rabbit, we got a lot of new construction skill. The one thing that most agents, what we don't want to do is talk for the builder. We may give something or talk about it because we know what's going on, but we never want to talk for the builder. And I've seen agents in the past talk for the builder, and the builder's like, no, I'm not doing that. And here we go.
Well, number 4, agent communication. How important is your agent's communication in this transaction, this process?
tremendously important because this is what happens, and I don't mean to offend any agent on here, but most time when you have a 6 or 7 month build, once the agent writes up the contract, they kind of go ghost on you for a little bit, so they don't really know what's going on. And then the buyer, next thing you know, the buyer's calling the builder, the buyer's out there on site, they're calling the builder's agent, and so then there's issues that pop up.
I think it's crucial that the agent stay involved with their client, because when the agent disappears and then you come back in there 2 or 3 weeks later and a lot of things have transpired, the agent's lost, and then the customers will look at their agent like, well, what did you really do? What did you do for us? And I think really what agents are there for is a lot of it is about emotional support to keep you calm. Ginger, you got a client, he didn't like what he saw on the outside of the house. Stephen was talking to him the other day. I think it kind of makes sense to him now. Is he okay? New construction is extremely, it's easy to sell, but it's very hard to service.
And you know why I think, in my opinion?
Tell me, Weatherman.
Because it's a process that takes several months, and you're out there all the time. So then you get to go home and you start wondering, you start thinking, and your mind, it starts just wearing you out.
Customers walk through the house, and a lot of times superintendents or the builders already know about mistakes.
Yeah.
But the client walks through and they see these things and they're not being fixed right then. Well, there's a process where the builder is usually going to take care of it, but whenever clients see these things and they're not fixed right then, they start to wonder. They start to worry. Are they go in the river?
What else is wrong? Did they cover this up?
They're doing this. Imagine what else they're doing. You know, really that says more about the person because they don't trust people.
Yeah.
But usually the agent needs to be involved to give peace, to keep this.
How often, in your opinion, should an agent talk to the client on a new construction deal? Now, this is not when the client just calls for a question. In your opinion, how often should the agent touch base with the client through a new construction deal?
Well, I think if the client's reaching out to you, in their mind, that means, hey, you're not helping me.
Right.
You need to be ahead of the calls coming to you. You really need to be reaching out probably weekly.
There you go.
I'd say weekly because, man, this is a long process, and these people, anytime you're doing something that you've never done, or maybe you do once every 5 or 10 years, there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of just very uncertain moments where I just need you to tell me everything's going to be okay. And it may not come to you like that. It may come to you like they're raising hell. Yeah. But really what they're asking you for is to just let me know everything's going to be okay.
Well, you know, they also got, most custom builds have a lot of earnest money. They have several $1,000s involved in this deal. So they also possibly may be living in an apartment. They may be living with in-laws. So, you know, there's a lot of things going on that a lot of times we take for granted, don't think of what they're going through. And if it was us in that position, how would we feel?
Well, I always go back to an analogy of me on an airplane because I don't like to fly. And whenever we hit turbulence and the pilot didn't tell me, I'm mad.
Yeah, he should.
But if he's like, hey, we're about to go through some turbulence, it's probably only going to be about 5 minutes. I'll get a drink and I feel better. But if I don't know about it, man, I'm aggravated. We want to know every bit of information possible, but it'd be impossible to give us all the information. Right. Moving along now, because hey, we've been going 18 minutes already.
Stevie's talking too much.
Something that's very important is the lender involved.
Oh.
I think Shawan said it earlier about hitting these closing dates, and it's very hard. Homes have a projected closing date. They really put the closing date out 7 months. We sign a contract. We make up the closing date. Yeah. Let's just say it's going to close February 18th.
Yeah.
Well, now we put an expectation out there. We're going to close February 18th, and as they're watching and they're not seeing things getting done, clients are already putting pressure. Are we going to make that closing date that you made up?
Am I right?
Hey, that you made up on the spot that day? Which I guess they don't know that. We're just sitting there and we come together and make up that number. But are we going to make it?
I didn't know we could close on Saturday.
I've got movers coming. Yeah. We put it on Saturday. Hey, we've got movers lined up. Our whole world hinges on February 18th. If it does not close on February 18th, I don't know what we're going to do. What are we going to do? Well,
Why,
dude,
as agents, do we not try to communicate better with the builder instead of picking these dates? You ever notice that? Because that's a draw. That's a bad thing that agents do. We automatically just assume it's going to take this long, and two things can happen. One thing, we give the builder more time, so sometimes they may use that time. And instead of picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, realistically, how much time do you need?" and then give them an extra 30 days after that time.
well, the builder don't want to be stuck paying that interest. Everybody wants to get it exact as possible.
Yeah.
So who said something about the rate lock and about the, was that you, Weatherman? I should have known. So
Should have known.
here's what happened. Let's say we've got that February 18th closing date, and we're watching rates, and rates are gone down, and in our mind, we're calculating our payment, and it's in November. Well, then in January, we see they've gone up, and it's costing me now $121 more a month if I lock in here. And then somebody on TV is saying they're going to keep going up. Then they really hit the panic. We want to lock our rate because we want to protect it from going up. Can we make February 18th? I don't know.
I don't know. Because
What
what's
are-
our biggest problem?
Weather,
Codes.
codes, so many things outside of our,
Inspectors,
so many things outside of our control.
Yeah.
That just inspectors. It took them 10 days to get out there.
That
The
darn
weather.
vacuum test,
Is that what it's called? Blower test?
blower test. Golly, man, blower test.
Well,
guys.
see, the lender has got to be on the ball about helping people understand. If you just lock them in, hey, Chad Smotherman, what's shaking? Colby,
up,
Ryan
Chad?
Lee, what's up, everybody? So lenders, man, it gets really stressful for lenders right now or during this time because they can't order the appraisal until the house is completed.
Yeah.
And then it's good that we got the closing date, and it's really hard. Usually the builders actually finish the home on the intended closing date.
Yeah.
But it still takes about another 10 days to get all the mortgage stuff approved.
Yep.
And the mortgage person, they're stressed out. Hey, they're going to be
Yep.
able to close.
Big thing to remember too is always close with your builder's title company.
Mm.
Always, because if not, you could have a 10-day extension on your.
Write that down, Spice, in there. Always close with your builder's
Title company.
and there's a couple of reasons. One, like he's saying, if you're not closing with their title company, they may be very reluctant for that 10-day notice of completion.
Yeah.
But number two is if they don't get their money, they may not give you the keys. That happens. If it's Friday and you close, Stevie, but I ain't got your money because you didn't come in there till 4 o'clock because it's all about you. Most people that are buying, that's the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
10 days notice of completion is required by, it is.
Yep.
But so if you're using the same title company,
And they know the
JR,
builder.
they will, and they know the builder, they will file it sooner.
Yeah.
They'll file it sooner in the process.
And also, don't close on the 28th and 29th of the month. Always try to close either the first week or the middle because then you give the buyer that extra grace period on their payment too. So I'll never close at the end of the month on new construction.
Number 6, a lot of this comes down, the chemistry between the builder and the buyer comes down to this. The buyer's knowledge. If they've never done it before, it could be very concerning.
What if their knowledge is relative?
That could be rough.
Yeah.
Some of the worst, hey Chad, what's up? Some of the worst transactions we've had is whenever there's another person involved that knew the codes back in 1991.
That's when they built their house.
That's when they built their home, and this is what we did. In their mind, that's the way it should have been done. That's the way you need to do yours. So what you end up doing is getting a lot of bad advice from people that you trust. Hey, is it a lead?
No.
But a lot of times you're depending upon the opinion of somebody that you know, like, and trust, but they really don't know. They've just got an opinion. This is what we did back then. How often do our codes change?
Man, I don't know. I'm not
Shit, there's something changing every year. I can almost guarantee you
every year.
there's something changing every year. Like you didn't even have a job a few years back, did you? The blower test. What is the blower test?
I had a way to just make you feel good.
Well, I mean for the blow,
Man,
the
you
blow.
wasn't about
You're running
nothing.
blow. But I mean, when did the blower test come into existence?
What was it, 3 years ago, I think?
Wasn't even around. What is a blower test?
It does the vacuum test on the duct systems and the overall
And if the
envelope of the house.
efficiency of the house, the R factor, things like that.
Right, so
And
it can be too tight or it can have leaks. So
What does that mean, though? What does that mean to
if
the?
it's too tight, then your air conditioning is not gonna work properly.
Yep.
It's not the unit's gonna be, and they'll have pressure, like your doors, you open one door and the other one slams shut, and your unit's too tight.
You're born with me.
No,
Hurry
I'm
up.
just kidding.
Hurry up,
When
Dwayne.
did
Now.
they change the code that the same AC people couldn't do the blower test? Because that used to,
That's when it was a code, because the HVAC people did their own test just
right?
for their own well-being with
Yep.
it. Beforehand, I guess it was 3 years ago, the code came into effect
Okay.
and made it where it was a conflict of interest for
Gotcha.
for the HVAC company to test their own product, which makes sense.
Candace Thornton, that's the worst third-party opinions, the old third base coach, somebody that's telling you how to do it. They're not involved in the transaction. They have no emotion in the transaction. All they've got is an opinion, their opinion. What if they don't even really want you to have this house?
Exactly, it's usually the first opinion, because they're jealous.
Yeah.
Man, ooh, that's exactly right. Most of the time, when you get strong, opinionated people, there's a little bit of something inside them, like,
Or they wouldn't even
Their
have a
house is
strong,
nicer
or
than
they
mine.
wouldn't even have a strong opinion.
yeah,
Wouldn't even have a strong opinion.
Yeah.
But you got to watch that. So, is there anything anybody would? Do you have any questions, or would anybody like to add something?
Well, I'll just say this.
Rabbit. Yes, you.
I think if the builder has a process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a smooth, easy process, and when I say process, like the selections, how you go about picking those out. I think the more times, buyers have to go in and look at things and pick out selections and lollygag around,
change things,
the more confusion, the more they start changing things.
mistakes.
Mistakes get made, the wrong thing gets ordered, it can get,
Big
so I
buffalo.
think that's a big key. If the builder has a really smooth selection, I think that makes it easy for the buyers, the agents, and the builder.
And she said right. If the builder's got a process, then that's what you need to go by, whether you like it or not. That's the builder's process, and the whole thing will go smoother if you abide by that process.
Right. My buddy Drew Perkins is on here, and he built a home a couple years back. And Drew is very laid back, but a lot of people would not have been able to deal with the time that it took to get everything done. So,
Yeah.
man, so much comes down to. I mean, I really think for it to work out. I really believe that circle that we've got drawn. There needs to be adequate support on every one of those.
My buddy Dan Elam has probably said some of the best advice I've ever had, and it's try to set the expectations up on the front end, and then remind them of those expectations weekly or monthly through the process, to where whenever it comes up, it doesn't sting as bad, because it's going to come up.
I just ain't no. And if it's not coming up, they're still thinking about it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
What is it, Josh?
How crucial is a builder's and a real estate agent's relationship? Like, does it have to be good in order for a process to go smooth?
They both got to do their job.
What if somebody slacks?
Then you got an issue.
Does it make you look bad?
I think you got to be careful about your emotions blowing up. If your emotions blow up, somebody else, and then it just gets ugly. It's so hard to regulate emotion. And a lot of builders I've dealt with can get emotional.
Yeah.
They can get mad. I've dealt with agents.
Yep.
And whenever that happens, I mean, it really makes the deal harder. So if everybody could get along, it'd be a lot better deal.
Some of the best advice I've ever given out to anybody is, if you represent a builder, that's your client, not the other agent, not the buyer. Now, you have to be a mediator, but your loyalty is to that builder. And if you're an agent representing the buyer, your loyalty is to that buyer, not to the paycheck, not to the commission check, to the buyer. And then once everybody knows their role, that's usually when it goes a whole lot better. Would you agree?
I do agree. Whenever the agent becomes the builder, and they start saying things, or whenever the agent starts giving their opinions, because a lot of times agents are wrong. If I were giving advice on stuff, I might be, because I don't know. I remember back whenever I would say stuff to Joey and he'd just be like, no, let me tell you why. And then it made perfect sense, but it's hard to slow down and tell people, let me tell you why it's this way. Any more questions before we shut it down, Weatherman?
I mean, I'm ready. We'll do another segment.
Well, I'm ready to shut it down. Hey, if you watch this, share the stream, we'll give away a free gift card to the Alley on Main. Von Grafton, shut us down, my friend.